Well, hi folks. Here we are on Monday, the 29th of June. On Vancouver Island, a nice sunny summer has seemed to finally arrive. Nice sunny day again. And in Canada, we're heading into our July 1st long weekend. Then the States follows with their July 4th long weekend. And it's an interesting time as we sort of look at what's happening in both sort of countries. You know, when we look at India and China and some of the Middle Eastern countries, our history is sort of short, and but it still is a rich history. It's not all pretty, like every country's history. We've come through growing pains, but I think that one of the highlights of both the United States and Canada, the North American continent, people came here because they wanted to get away from goofiness. They were looking for freedom. They were looking for the opportunity to go and build a better life for themselves. And hey, that's what early the U.S. and Canada offered. It was the opportunity for people to come here and really flex their entrepreneurial spirit and make a life for themselves and their families. And of course, our history is short, but that history started way back then. And for those people who are wanting to tear down statues, I suppose you're just too stupid to even understand the short history, let alone the long history of the planet in other countries. You're too stupid to really understand what history is. You don't really know, you don't have appreciation for it. The people who want to tear down things are usually the educated radicals and the uneducated dummies who have nothing else to follow, except they're upset that they don't have what maybe somebody else does have. And it's interesting because when you look at North America, it was founded on Christian principles. And so some people, and today we're trying to get away from that. You know, to mention anything Christian is sort of politically incorrect. And to those people I say bullshit, who don't like that bullshit. See, and I talk to people who maybe are relatively new here, say, well, Canada doesn't really have an identity. There's no Canadian identity. You're wrong. There is a Canadian identity. People in Canada came in their early days. My grandparents on my mother's side, I'm second generation. And they came from Europe to build a life for themselves, which they did. On my father's side, it was from Scotland and Ireland. And they came here for a better life and to build something, and they did. And again, they came with Christian principles. And when I say Christian principles, that's where the fabric of Canada began. And people started coming from other countries with different religions. And they were welcomed, and they still are. Because when you look at whatever political division of Christianity or religions you have, their basic tenets, or any religion, whether it's Islam, whether it's the Hindus, whatever it is, the basic tenets are all are similar and good. The problem we run into is some idiot with a psychopathic mind decides he's going to or she's going to control the whole group, and everybody's going to take over because everybody has to do what we do. And that's not Canadian. That's not the Canadian identity. The early Canadian identity was bring your stuff, enjoy your culture, don't force it down anybody else's throat. Don't expect everybody to change their way of thinking to satisfy what you think is the correct way. You're coming here to start a new life. Here's what we're all doing, and we're going to, we appreciate everybody who does that. Whether you're from China, from India, from Pakistan, from the Middle East, from Germany, from Poland, wherever you're from. Come on and let's all get together and let's roll with this. And that's what Canada started with. And were there mistakes? Of course there were. And that's history. I mean, the only people who don't make mistakes, as the old saying goes, is those people who don't do anything, who don't try to accomplish something. There's always mistakes made. And when you look at some of the statues that some people want to tear down, They're looking at a different context. The society was different back then. We may not agree with what they did back then, but it's still part of our history, and hopefully we've learned from that. But these yahoos, and that's what I call them, yahoos, whether they're 3-degree yahoos or a person that dropped out of high school yahoo who want to tear down statues, you don't really get it. You don't really get it. So you're going to start from scratch and put up a statue to Greta Thunberg and whoever in the hell else you have in mind. But what's your history? What's your history? A bunch of hooligans, a bunch of yahoos. And that's where you start from. And we had yahoos way back in those statues and you want to tear down. No different than you are today. Was it right? No. Is it wrong today? It's even more wrong today because you should know better. You should have learned from history if you had paid attention. And I know in schools they don't teach that. You know, they want to change it around to what they think it might be or should be or could have been. But hey, you got to look at reality sometimes. So as we head into this long weekend in Canada, and some places are doing a virtual Canada Day. Sort of pisses me off when you think about it. They could have protest marches. You can take over the City Hall Square in Toronto. You can disrupt traffic in Vancouver. You can go to small towns in Alberta and harass people. It's no problem. But now to celebrate our country, we can't do that. And some people say it's racist to celebrate our country. Fuck off. It isn't racist. I mean, you people do not understand what racism really means. I mean, people from all around the world came to build these two countries. And they did it together. You ask the blacks, the native Indians, people from wherever. Were there cases of bad things that happened? Of course there were, but we all learned from that. That's in our fabric. That's identity of Canada. And you may not believe that. Maybe you're sitting in some apartment in some city feeling sorry for yourself. Well, get out into the country. Look at the skies, the mountains, the oceans, the rivers, the prairies. Go to the East Coast. Go to Quebec. Well, they have their own culture, but they're still part of Canada. The only ones that don't want to be a part are the psychopathic politicians who have some ego and power trip going on. The average people from Quebec that I know are proud of their French culture, but they're proud to be Canadian. You know, and I think as we roll into this long weekend, we should really think of that. And as we look at, I got an email from Barbara Streisand. Why I get this? Well, it's from the Democratic Party in the States. It said, we have to have a Democratic Party. And blah, 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 blah. Are you going to join us? So I replied I don't usually reply because I can't, it's none of my business. I can't vote in the States. I can't send money to that. It's against the law to send money to an American party. I'm not a citizen. I'm a Canadian. So anyway, I replied to that. You'd have to be a raving idiot to vote Democrat in the States right now. And just look at what's going on. Just look at what's going on went on for the past 4 years. The Democrats have tried to undo a sitting, duly elected president, and they expect people to vote for them. I mean, they're like the yahoos that have taken over this downtown, the City Hall Square in Toronto. Or the people who disrupt everybody in their crazy march in Vancouver. They're marching for something that has been hijacked. It has nothing to do with what their slogans say. It's sort of a Marxist, communist way of thinking. And people never moved. Canada and the United States weren't founded because they wanted to be socialist communists. We wanted to have freedom. We didn't want to have some pimply-faced prick tell us what word is right, what word is wrong. We did not want that. We wanted to live our lives and respect other people, go by the tenets of the religions, forget the politics of the religions, and be Canadian, be American, be a North American. That's why people have risked their lives coming through shark-infested waters, pirates, all sorts of shit to get here. And those people are successful. people from Vietnam, people from China, people from India. Just give your head a shake. They didn't arrive to change everything to their system. They arrived to take advantage of the freedom and the opportunities that the continent offered. And they just sort of thrived on that. And it's unfortunate some of their offspring just want a whole bunch of stuff for nothing. And they look at their neighbor who has worked their ass off and have got a couple of things and have got a business or a life going. And they say, well, I should have that. They're, number one, they haven't gone educated themselves. Number two, they don't want to work. Number three, they want to sit on their ass and not do that. And they say, well, I can't do it because of it's racism. Bugger off. It is not racism. Look in the mirror. It's your stupidity that's not letting you move ahead. I mean, people want to give you a hand up, not a hand out. And that's in a Canadian way, and I think the early American way. So we're going to talk about this for a while, because I think through this weekend, when you get up and just look at the sky, should be really thankful you're here. Not complaining what a rotten place it is, how racist it is, how systemically racist we are, how there's white privilege. There is no white privilege. There's privilege for human beings who want to come and grasp that idea of freedom and opportunity and go to work and respect their neighbors, respect people from whatever country they are, respect whatever religion they are. You don't have to follow it. Don't have to cave in your own so you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Be you. That's what we're all about. So people who tell me we don't have a Canadian identity, it's crazy. You haven't been paying attention. I don't care how long you lived here. If you've just arrived, you should have done some research before you came to see what our identity is. And that's about all for now. I'm excited to be a Canadian. And a good friend of mine just got her citizenship. And I think I would like to have her explain her idea, but she's a Canadian. And she's proud of it, and she's excited about it, and she went through hoops to do that. Because it's not easy. There's all sorts of bureaucracy built up where they make it difficult. But I get excited thinking about how excited she must be to celebrate her first July 1st as an actual Canadian. And has she forgot her culture? No. I mean, she's proud of her culture. Has it got some bad stuff? Of course it does. But has it got good stuff? Sure it does. Does it blend in Canada? Of course it does. Does she try to supersede the Canadian and everybody else's rights and ways of life with hers? No, she doesn't. She goes together and blends through that. Enjoys it all. It's this different cultures that we get to enjoy and experience. And that's about all for now. Like always, I'll put a couple of videos or links to a couple of cool videos in the comments, in the comment section, or the description section, I guess. And if I sound excited today, I am, because I realize what Canada is about, and I realize what the U.S. is about too. I have a lot of friends in the U.S. of all races, and they feel the same way. And for those of you who are marching to change it because you don't like it, get off your ass and really start doing educate yourself. Educate yourself. Don't be so stupid. Don't be so stupid. People came here because they wanted freedom, they wanted the opportunity, and they didn't want some group of malcontents telling them what we have to do because it doesn't suit with your inequity. You can improve that. You don't have to stay where you are. You can improve your life as well. Is it easy? No. You got to get off your ass and go to work. They say to get to success, you've got to go through the garbage dump. Most people just get bogged down in the garbage and stay there. But you can get through. And that's it for now. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.